Senator Ron Johnson sits on the Senate Foreign Relations and Homeland Security Committees. And, Senator, thanks very much for being here this morning. I want to get your take on the U.S.'s response to this conflict. This morning, very troubling news that Vladimir Putin has put his nuclear forces on alert in this conflict as President Zelensky in Ukraine continues to fight back. Is there decisions that are being made? Are there decisions being made? And are they the result of, as you reported, influence peddling?
Well, my concern is the response of the West in total will be too little too late. But let's make no mistake about it. There's one group of people that is responsible for these atrocities. That's Vladimir Putin and the cronies that surround him, the kleptocracy of Russia. Let's give a shout out to President Zelensky, proving himself to be a man of enormous courage, enormous leadership. The Ukrainian people, I urge all of your listeners, pray for President Zelensky, pray for you, the Ukrainian people who are just wanting to live in peace and freedom. But I think we do need to take a look at what all led up to this. I don't think Vladimir Putin would have moved on Ukraine were it not for the weakness displayed certainly by the Biden administration, but also by the West in general. And I'm certainly hoping that Colonel Vindman, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, who use Ukraine as a pawn in their impeachment travesty, are also recognizing, reflecting on how they weakened Ukraine, weakened the West, weakened America by the divisive politics that they play. There's much blame to go around, but in terms of the atrocities, that falls squarely on the shoulders of Vladimir Putin and his cronies. They have to be pariahs from now on. They can never re-enter the world stage as anything other than pariahs and war criminals.
So what does that mean in terms of policy that you'll work on in the coming weeks?
Well, certainly I'll do everything we can in Congress to support the brave Ukrainian people. They do need and they deserve the type of weaponry to keep fighting courageously. They are vastly overwhelmed, but as previous guests have spoken about on your network, the Russian troops, what are they fighting for? For the kleptocracy in Russia? The Ukrainians are fighting for their country, for their families, for their children. They're going to be ferocious fighters. I think they're already proving that. I don't think Vladimir Putin quite expected this level of resistance. So the West must support those freedom-loving people in Ukraine.
You know, it strikes me that in the since the year 2000, we've had 4 presidents, and Russia has invaded another country during 3 of the 4. Under George W. Bush, he invaded Georgia. Under Clinton, invading Crimea, invading now Ukraine. He did not invade any country under President Trump. And I know that President Trump had a partnership or a relationship with the head of Saudi Arabia, whereas when Trump asked him to ramp up production, he did, and oil prices went down. Now you're seeing a partnership between MBS, the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, and Russia, and the CCP, Xi Jinping, and Russia, all adversaries of America.
Well, this is pretty simple. You know, what gives Vladimir Putin and his cronies their leverage? They have oil and they have nuclear weapons. It's just that simple. And so the response ought to be relatively simple as well. We ought to pursue what has always been a bipartisan goal of fossil fuel independence, which is what we did pursue under the last administration. But under this administration, under Democrat governance, Democrat policies, literally is a war on fossil fuels. We were energy independent. Yeah. All of a sudden, we're not under the Biden administration. That weakens America. That weakens the West. And, of course, Europe, their leadership in Germany make themselves more and more dependent on Putin's oil, not defending themselves, not contributing their own defense. They didn't like it when President Trump said you at minimum have to pay your 2%. They haven't even done that. Now they're doing it today. I hope it's not too little too late.
Yeah, and let me just clarify and correct. It was 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea under President Obama. And now you have President Obama's same team working with President Biden. It's pretty much the same strategy as it relates to Russia as well as China. I want to get your take on China because we've spoken a lot about the CCP and its plans to overtake the United States through stealing, partly through stealing our intellectual property. Why is the Department of Justice canceling the Trump-era China initiative?
Well, again, Maria, I think you understand what I'm suspicious of. What Senator Grassley and I uncovered, the vast web of foreign financial entanglements. We don't know all the entanglements of Biden Inc., of President Biden, of Hunter Biden, but I tell you who does. Russian intelligence and Chinese intelligence. Is that a contributing factor to why President Biden, first day in office, basically relaxed the sanctions on the people constructing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and weakened America? Is that what's behind the cancellation of this China initiative, making sure that China, or trying to keep China from stealing all of our intellectual property that has strengthened them at the expense of the U.S.? So people need to ask that question. It's exactly what Senator Grassley and I were trying to warn the American public about when we published our report at the end of September of 2020 before the election. But the complicit media, who basically installed President Biden, a guy who campaigned from his basement in office, they covered up for him then. They're covering up for him now. It's kind of hard to cover up the disaster that is a result of this policy now as Russia is invading Ukraine.
And also, we should point out that this week we learned that the Secret Service claims that it cannot find any communications related to Hunter Biden's travel records from 2010, 2011, 2013, all when Joe was vice president. How is it possible that the Secret Service doesn't find the records?
Simple word, corruption. I can't answer it any other way. I had to subpoena the FBI director, Christopher Wray. We got a fraction of the information we should have. Chuck Grassley and I wrote a letter to Gina Haspel, the director of the CIA, with a long list of items we wanted. And of course, she promised she would be responsive to legitimate oversight requests. She didn't turn a page over to us, wouldn't even return our phone calls. So Maria, we do have a deep state. It's populated by leftists, and that's something we need to address.
Senator, thank you. Thank you very much for your leadership. We appreciate it. Ron Johnson.